You might not have ever heard of Old World if you're not into hexagon-shaped 4X games, or if you don't hang out on the Epic Game Store, which is the only place you can play the game until May 19th, when Old World finally releases on Steam. If you are one of the uninitiated then, Old World is a civilization type game where you take control of a historical civilization and lead it to greatness. But luckily, it's so much more than just a civilization clone, and you'll find out exactly why in this video. I've had the privilege of playing an early build of Old World's massive expansion, Heroes of the Aegean, and we'll take you through some of the game's main features as well. And if that sounds good to you, I really hope you'll consider becoming a channel member, as any donation really helps me out and allows me to make more videos just like this one. A massive thank you to all my current patrons, and now, Old World, Heroes of the Aegean. If you think Old World looks like Civilization, you're definitely not alone. We have a very similar style map here, a not too different looking technology tree, and the warfare is indeed very reminiscent of how things work in Civilization. But these surface areas is actually where the main similarities end, as Old World, rather than being Civilization with a twist, is more like Civilization meets Crusader Kings, and even then with a ton of asterisks after. And I say that because there are so many nuances here that really makes it stand apart. First and foremost is the fact that rather than being a game that takes you through the ages, Old World focuses exclusively on antiquity and the ancient periods, meaning that we have factions like the Romans, Babylonians, and the Carthaginians, which you then will continue to control for the rest of the game. Obviously, you'll be developing your factions through the years, where you won't suddenly find yourself in the medieval or modern age. I think this is one of the main selling points of Old World, at least for me, because it makes the world feel more grounded and realistic somehow. What's more is that rather than just being a state builder, Old World goes much deeper, giving you a court with family members, including spouses, children, diplomats, and generals, and different families will be in control of the various cities of your empire, which in turn provides those cities with different bonuses exclusive to those families. Every character in your faction comes with different skills and traits, and events occurring throughout the game will influence both them and your faction as a whole. You will, for example, actually need a diplomat to conduct diplomacy, a feature I love by the way because it makes every action feel that much more deliberate, and events will give you branching choices for your family members. There's an extensive family tree here where you can clearly see how everything works in terms of who's who, and you can even change your succession laws, meaning who will inherit the crown once your current character dies. This will have repercussions, as those who have now lost the right will be quite angry with you. In addition, there are kingdom laws you can enact and change once the chance arrives, which often happens once you've achieved certain actions during the campaign itself, such as researching new technologies. Even the resource system is awesome, as the buildings make sense and are varied, and can even be improved by specialists, and become connected through an immersive trade network system with roads. The various systems of Old World work great together, and even though there's so much more to mention here, I think I'll leave the overview for there now, as we're really here for the Heroes of the Aegean expansion. Old World offers several campaigns to play. The largest is a classic grand campaign style one, where you get the chance to play the different factions on a larger map. But in this preview of the expansion, I've had the opportunity to try the Heroes of the Aegean scenario, which is a much more linear sandbox experience where we get to play as the Greeks and the Macedonians in their war against Persia. It's all fairly straightforward, but if you want a more historical approach to playthrough, this is where you'll find it. It's also a very good way to become initiated with the game rather than playing the tutorial, as the scenario provides you with challenges in a kind of piecemeal way rather than tips all the time. We currently have 5 different scenario campaigns to play, which takes us all the way from the Battle of Marathon to the wars of the Hellenistic successor kings after the death of Alexander. The first 2 scenarios are largely battle-focused where you'll fight off the Persian invasion, meaning there's little to no actual city management. The later campaigns, which has us play as King Philip of Macedon, his wife and Queen Regent Olympias, and the successor kingdoms respectively, is a much more campaign-focused experience. As they are scenarios, they are more linear and history-focused than the more sandboxed regular campaign, in that we get historical events popping up often, even to the point of real characters being very important, and actual historical lines being said or written. This means that you are to a certain extent boxed into both the region and goals of your characters, but there are many branching choices here as well. And you are of course in charge of actually running your realm, meaning that even though the goals might be given to you, it's up to you to actually see them realized. As Philip of Macedon, for example, there's not a whole lot you begin with, but the choices in the campaign and management of your realm will eventually see you grow. As Philip, I somehow ended up with 4 wives due to the diplomatic advantages connected with each one, including the future Olympias which will come to bear Alexander. In fact, when my 3rd wife died, my first wife wanted me to change the heir from Alexander to the aptly named Cleopatra, and you get to choose whether this is the best choice for you or not. Even though you can influence your diplomatic standing with neighboring factions yourself, or at least try to, there are larger events at play here that allows you to push other factions towards or away from you, such as the Athenians or the Spartans in the south. The Philip campaign is entirely focused on Macedonia and Greece, and as such the map of this area is huge. Moving to the Successor Kingdoms campaign changes things up entirely, giving us the largest empire of them all, the Seleucids, which stretches all the way from the Mediterranean to Afghanistan. This map is definitely much larger, but is smaller in terms of landmass scale as it has to fit a lot more map into the game. I think it does a good job of it though, and it feels right to march your armies across these vast lands of this scale. I think the main attraction of this expansion is how in-depth the devotion to the history is, while at the same time giving us that freedom of choice. Old World's base game is already strong, and if you ever wanted more out of Civilization, but something a bit less crazy and complex than CK3, then Old World might just be the game for you. The combination of family and state politics, coupled with the management of resources and armies, is generally good, and the orders system, which lets you move your units based on a resource rather than set movement points, is really exciting and fresh. I will say that despite being mechanically sound, I do think Old World suffers from looking visually outdated, looking very much like Civilization 5 in many ways, unless we're talking these sweet clouds and the admittedly beautiful concept art and character portraits, which are superb. If you can get over the somewhat older graphics though, or if you're already loving Old World's main game and previous scenarios, then the Heroes of the Aegean expansion will most likely be to your liking as well, especially since there's even more coming for the final release of the game than what's been covered here, and it's definitely something you should consider checking out when it comes out. Old World releases on May 19th for Steam and GOG, and the expansion comes out on the same day for these and the Epic Game Store. The expansion itself will actually be available for free for the first 2 weeks after launch, which is amazing, so make sure to check that out if you're interested in Old World. Thank you so much for watching. Old World is a really interesting take on this genre of strategy, and even though I would have liked a bit flashier graphics, the mechanics and gameplay here is great if you're a fan of the 4X genre. If you enjoyed the video, I really hope you leave a like, and again, thank you to all my patrons, and if you wish to support me further, then I hope you'll consider becoming a channel member or a Patreon, as every donation means the world to me. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.